This time, what we'd like to do is go into more detail around what is it that our districts are doing. So I'd like to transition now to four of our school districts: Dallas Independent School District, Denver Public Schools in Colorado, Guilford County Public Schools in Greensboro, North Carolina, and San Diego Unified Public Schools, or San Diego Unified, School District in California. And we'd like to ask them to share a little bit about what they have done actually on the ground to address what they heard, what they saw in their school districts, and how they're addressing the challenges that students have faced with learning and growing from mathematics coming out of the pandemic. And first and foremost, these districts were selected because we have seen improved state achievement scores and other assessment scores for them on their local assessments. And so we'd like to get from them, what is their mathematics story? So I'd like to start by introducing the Dallas Independent School District to share about their mathematics story. And Dr. Kevin Dakima in the previous session just spoke about tracking in mathematics. And Dallas has built their mathematics program to increase opportunities to learn by raising expectations for all students. And this has happened while also maintaining or increasing their local scores. So what is Dallas doing to address the inequities and opportunities to learn for all students? And for that answer, I would like to turn to Dr. Shannon Trejo from the Dallas Independent School District, as well as Stej Sanchez, to share a bit more about what they're doing in their process.
Thank you so much, Ray. So excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share the stage with so many amazing districts who are sharing their story. I'll be brief on the intro. Just want to share the idea that our work in mathematics is really grounded in equity. We are trying hard to open access to students who may not have had previous opportunities to get involved in advanced level mathematics that leads from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade and post-secondary opportunities. And so Stej Sanchez is our director of mathematics in Dallas, and he is going to tell you about our opt-out policy that started a few years back that not only increased participation, but also maintained high-level results. Stej?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stej Sanchez, Mathematics Director for the Dallas Independent School District. And again, thank you, everyone. It's an honor to be here and to share our mathematics story. All right. The first two slides will be just about a little bit about Dallas ISD. We are about 240 schools. 26 of those schools are multi-level schools, which we have K-8, some are K-6 schools, and some are 4-8, and anything else in between. Our enrollment is about 141,000 students, and we are about 70% Hispanic, Latino, and about 20% Black African American. All right, so the main reason is why we're doing this, right? Why change our policies? Right. So basically, we got this quote from the Department of Education: enrollment lags behind access. So basically, in a nutshell, what they're saying is we can offer as many classes we want, but somehow we got to get the students in these classes in order for them to benefit from these from the courses. All right. So let's take a look about history. Right. So this is from 2013, 2015. But if you can see the 6th grade enrollment, this is basically describes our middle school enrollment pretty much since I was in middle school. And it's basically a 80-20 split. And what I mean by 80-20, it's basically, and if you look at a grade 6 enrollment, grade 6 is technically 2 courses, the 6th grade honors and the 6th grade on level. And basically we have 80% of our students enrolled in the on level grade 6, and we have 20% students enrolled in the honors pathway. It used to be called pre-AP, but this pathway will lead students to the 8th grade Algebra 1. And similarly, you can see for grade 8 enrollment as well. It pretty much mirrors grade 6, and this pretty much mirrors since I've been in middle school. Let's take a look at a little bit on just a breakdown with Hispanic and African Americans. As you can see, the trend is very similar. We've got an 80-20 split with Hispanics and Latinos in grade 6 and in grade 8. And there's also an 85-15 split between African-American students enrolled in the 6th grade on level and the 6th grade honors. And again, that has probably been since most of us has been in middle school. All right, so this was, I took a snippet from a recent article from I think it was one of the newspapers here, the local newspapers, and they were asking, what do we do to increase diversity? Because if you look at now, we've increased the number of students of Black African-American students in 6th grade honors, also Hispanics students. So what do we do? And that's kind of what this picture was entails. How did we increase, or how did we diversify these pathways? All right, so a little bit of our math journey, and it wasn't overnight. It did start back in 2017, 2018, when TA released a middle school pathways article about how to get more kids into Algebra 1, in 8th grade Algebra 1. So that year we looked at data, we looked at our own students, and basically we found out that it was about 800 students that could have, based on the state's grade bands, there was about 800 students that probably would have benefited if they were in the honors pathway, or if they tracked into the honors pathway, the pre-AP pathway. And we said to ourselves, that's a lot. That's a lot of kids that probably would have gone, had an opportunity. So we looked at data further, and we developed something called Algebridge, and that was just a second opportunity into the honors track. Before this, there was only one opportunity, and if you missed that opportunity, that's it. Like there is no other opportunity. So we decided to make a second opportunity called Algebridge, but we knew this wasn't going to sustain. We knew this wasn't sustainable, or wasn't a good practice. It was more of a Band-Aid. The following year, we decided to look at our policy in 2019, 2020, our EHAC policy. And in a nutshell, EHAC basically regulates or governs the placement of students in middle school. That obviously it's a little more complex than that, but in a nutshell, it talks about placement. But also this EHAC policy was, the way as it was written, it's basically an opt-in policy. So we decided, well, can we change some wording? And again, this was not just Dr. Trejo and myself. This was a team of people from across the districts. Can we change this wording to be more of an opt-out policy as opposed to an opt-in policy? So we changed the policy, and then fast forward 4 years later to present day, right? That's how we got those graphs from the previous slides. Now, the big lingering question, and the question that we get a lot is, how are those students doing? How are those 8th grade Algebra 1 students doing?
Stej, can I add one thing on that previous slide,
yes.
Ray, if you don't mind? One thing just to point out on that 1920 that Stej was mentioning around the opt-out policy, we actually put language identifying criteria that would auto-enroll students into the advanced pathway. So not only did that policy say, if you meet this criteria, you're automatically going to be enrolled, it then said you cannot opt out of this advanced pathway unless you have written parent permission to opt out. So I think that was a really important factor, as we saw a lot of kids between 5th and 6th grade who were functioning at high levels of mathematical thinking that were not enrolling in advanced classes. And so we had to work to change that, and the policy work put words on the paper, but then we had to work hard with our campuses to understand master scheduling, to understand follow-up on the students actually enrolling in those classes. So just wanted to emphasize that point. Thank you, Ray. We can go on to the next slide.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Trejo. All right, so now let's answer the question that pretty much we've been asked a lot now, is how are 8th grade Algebra 1 students? So we changed policy. We put more kids into the honors track. They went through Algebra 1. How are they doing? Now, for the purposes of this presentation, we only looked at Approaches Plus. The state does have 3 grade bands: Approaches Plus, Meets, and Masters. But just for our purposes right now, we looked at only Approaches Plus. Approaches Plus, in layman's terms, is basically passing and above. All right. Right. So while the graphs indicate a story, let me just break down just a little bit. Before COVID, the previous years before COVID, pretty much all students, I remember, this is only that 20%, the small number of students, that small number of students pretty much, passed or pretty much got an Approaches Plus, almost all of them, about 99% of them, pretty much all of them. COVID happened. Then look at post-COVID. Now, remember, our policy did change 2018, 2019, right? Now, we're still recovering a little bit from the pandemic, but if you look at our current year, we're about 95% passing our students that are taking 8th grade Algebra 1. But while those, the top of the graphs, I know we're looking at the top of the graphs, there's another number that I want you to pay attention to as well, and that is the N on the bottom. Notice in 2016, 2017, or anything pre EHE amendment policy, we're about at roughly 2,200 students every year that were getting credit for Algebra 1. They passed the state exam, they moved on to high school. Now, fast forward to 2022, 2023, this past year, look at the end. Now it's almost about 4,200 students that got Approaches Plus. So that's an additional 2,000 students that without this policy, we would not have, having a Algebra 1 credit in high school, which means a lot of things, right? Means that now they have extra room in their schedule, for high school to take, whether it's, the college institutes, the pre-AP, IB, AP courses. Now they have a little more room in there. Go on the next slide. Now, we did provide some guidance for our campuses. Now, without going into too much detail, there's a lot in this slide, but just in a nutshell, basically what we said to campuses was there are some things you have to pay attention to. One is professional development. There is professional development provided for these pathways for teachers, but also the when. Not so much what, but when. There are certain windows where you need to make decisions. Where you need to start about interventions and students. Otherwise, you might get into some interesting situations later down the road. So you have to pay attention to these windows. And of course, our interventions. One of the biggest questions that we always get asked is, what about struggling students? What do you do for struggling students? If they are in an honors pathway, what do you do before we go back to on level? What do you do? Right. So this is some of our guidance that covers this. Last slide. All right, so just to share some successes. So some successes are, we did manage to get more students, more Hispanic students, more African-American students into 8th grade Algebra 1 successfully. We're close. We haven't fully recovered yet, but as every district I'm sure here is, we're getting there. We are near pre-pandemic levels in 8th grade Algebra 1. We're almost there. But also the culture changed. 8th grade Algebra 1 is not perceived to be the norm now. Before it was kind of a 1 in 5 people were in 8th grade Algebra 1, but now it seems like it's more closer to 50%, more half, where it's a 1 in 2, which means for every 2 kids you see, one of them is probably going to be in 8th grade Algebra 1. So the culture has definitely changed. Now, this journey has not been without challenges. We've definitely had a lot of challenges along the way. Some of them are just communicating, grading, promoting, and retention policies, ensuring course prerequisites. Of course, there are some prerequisites for the honors track and for certain things as we go along. Monitoring and providing support for students that are struggling. That, as you know, in Texas, these honors pathways are a choice to students. So if they want to be in these, and they're maybe not successful, how do you support those students? So that has been a challenge. The next steps, where do we go from here? The first one is more of a reflection on our part, more than anything else. Over communicate with all stakeholders. That's one of the it goes back to one of the challenges. I believe if someone were to ask, or someone were to say, if you were to give guidance to another district that wants to go in these footsteps, or if you want to go back in time and tell her, so what would you've done differently? One of the things that I would say or recommend is just over communicate your policies, over communicate your supports, definitely, because all these do impact the master schedule, and we've seen those, and on a case by case basis, we managed to ensure that these aren't, they're in the right path. Lastly, is where we go from here. Hopefully, in a year or two, we'll be back at the council saying, okay, now we got 2,000 students, additional 2,000 students, and right now they're in 9th grade, because this is 8th grade data. So right now they're currently sitting in a 9th grade class. In a few years, we want to come back and say, out of these additional 2,000 students, did they enroll in college prep courses? Did they enroll in career and college readiness courses? AP, IB, dual credit, career institutes, that sort of thing. So that's really what we want to go. We want to make sure we give these opportunities to kids, but also that they take them and they enroll in these CCMR pathways.
Right. To close out, we just want to say we believe that students can meet the high expectations that we provide to them. And this is Dallas ISD's way to accomplish that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you both for sharing Dallas's story. And similar to Dallas, Guilford County has seen promising results when it comes to increasing opportunities to learn in mathematics for their students post-COVID as well through high-dosage tutoring and other academic recovery efforts. So we asked them, please briefly share information about the results you've seen and some of the different processes that you have in place to support math recovery efforts and increase student understanding of mathematics. And I'd like to introduce Jusmar Maness and Emily Hare from Guilford County Public Schools to share their story.
Thank you, Dr. Hart. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you guys this afternoon and share a little bit about our improvement story because there are a lot of pieces of it. I'm Jusmar Maness. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for Guilford County Schools, and I'm joined by Emily here, our brilliant Director of Mathematics in our district. To share a little bit about us, you can go to the next slide, Ray. Just to give you a little bit of a context of where Guilford County is and who we are the third largest district in North Carolina. We're in the top 60 largest districts in the country. We serve over 67,000 students, and we are an extremely diverse district, majority minority students, with about 42% of Black and almost 20% Hispanic students. We have 121 languages that are spoken in our district, with a large number of EL, special education students, and AG. And our student poverty rate, to give you a context, is 66%. So it tells you a little bit about who we are. When we talk about our story, a little bit on mathematics, I'm going to turn it over first to Emily to share about our summer programming and some of the work that we've done with our context or our curriculum in mathematics. But the most important thing is for us, our why is to ensure that our students really have access to grade level content and that zip code does not determine the quality of the resources, programs, instruction that our students receive. Emily?
Thank you for that, Jusmar. So similarly to Dallas, we're actually also talking about some middle school math placement supports we've had. In GCS, we have multiple options for math acceleration and have for a long time, and that includes Algebra 1, or what we call Math 1, at both the 8th grade and 7th grade levels. So having these options are a wonderful opportunity, but also create some challenges when thinking about the structures for the different pathways. So the first strategy that we're sharing is around our middle school math placement, and while part of that is clearly communicating guidance that's based on multiple data points, most importantly, we want to share our summer opportunities. And that's where we have gone through and offered multiple virtual summer math courses for students to either get ready for the next course or bridge to an accelerated course. So ready for courses are review and preparation for the next course in the student's pathway. They were born out of the COVID years, and now we've realized how valuable they are, and our feedback has been wonderful on those courses. But also we have bridge courses, which allow our students to hop pathways. So similarly to how Dallas was explaining, that 6th grade math course doesn't decide their pathway for the rest of their math career, because there's opportunities to jump pathways to go into an accelerated pathway, even if they were in standard 6 and 6th grade. Another piece, if you'll advance to the slide, Dr. Hart, thank you for that, is our focus on core implementation and core math implementation. So if you'll flip, thank you, in GC, we have really placed a focus on continuing thinking about core math instruction, even with all of the extra stuff that's been happening in the last few years. So we're currently working with our school and district leadership teams, and we're really working to build the capacity and invest in our people at those levels to ensure that we're all speaking the same language when it comes to instruction. So when I walk into a classroom, when a principal who may not have a math background walks into a classroom, we're all speaking the same language and knowing what we expect for each and every one of our students so that they have that equitable experience in math. Norming this language using indicators that we've crafted for each grade band allows us to better support our math teachers at both the school and district level and just have that two-way communication. Thankfully, we have a strong partnership with our data department, Dr. Hart, if you'll advance, to be able to build some apps through Power Apps that allow us to track our implementation efforts at K through 12. And then on the next slide, give some very intriguing data displays that allow us to broaden our data that we're looking at. And so it's not just student achievement data, even though that's very important, but we can layer that on top of our implementation data to get a full picture of what's happening in our core math courses. So those are two strategies that I'm sharing about. I'm going to pass it back to Jusmar to talk about a couple of more.
And to bridge some with what Emily shared, we have invested a lot in high quality instructional materials. And with that, we are aligning to making sure that we also invest in our people. So when we're talking about our core implementation and the learning walks, it's making sure that we're providing the coaching, the support, and identify the key indicators for our teachers, for our administrators, and our coaches to really understand where they are with the instruction and what they need to improve based on the learning walks and the supports and coaching. Another piece that we have emphasized in Guilford is our high dosage tutoring. High dosage tutoring or tutoring that occurs with a frequency of at least 2 to 6 hours per week. We have invested a lot of efforts into our high dosage tutoring and have established great partnerships across the community for our high dosage tutoring. The research shows that high dosage tutoring is one of the most effective academic interventions, and it provides an average of almost 10 months of additional learning in math alone. So that's why one of the reasons why we have emphasized our high dosage tutoring. For our GCS tutoring partnership, here you see a summary of some of the tutors that we have. We have current high school students that meet certain criteria and they're able to tutor in lower levels, middle and elementary school. We have college students, we have graduate assistants, and community professionals that have come back and supported our students. Very importantly, that our tutors receive training. So we don't just let them come in, sign up, and go into a school. So we ensure that our tutors receive training from our instructional teams, from our mathematics department on the core curriculum that we use, on the instructional strategies that we use, and the support they receive throughout tutoring. And they have partnerships with the teachers in the classroom to make sure that it's this really close relationship to support students' instruction. Today, we want to emphasize two very important partnerships that we have established with two local universities to sponsor or support graduate assistantships. We have a partnership with North Carolina A&T University and the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, where we recruit graduate assistants and we are able to support their tuition and their assistantship to be able to come and tutor in our classrooms. This has been a great opportunity because they provide consistent and frequent availability. It really helps them to get to know the students, but it also is allowing students to see math majors or math and STEM majors that look like them. So they're able to identify themselves with them. In addition to that, we're building a pipeline. We are seeing that a lot of our math tutors that are graduate assistants are coming back and now they're wanting to become teachers, which is helping support the math needs that we have in our district and in our community. These graduate assistantships have been extremely powerful to support our students' learning, but at the same time, making sure that we're also supporting our students as a whole. For our tutoring programs, some of the outcomes is that we're really seeing an increase in achievement and participation in our students from elementary all the way to high school. Again, we're building a pipeline to create sustainability, and we are really providing the support for our graduate assistants where they're receiving the training, the knowledge, and the content to then be partners in the classroom for our students' learning. In addition, it's allowing our students to see possibilities when they're seeing college students that are coming back and supporting them, and they're seeing the possibilities of what they can do going into potential math and STEM fields. Next slide. And this is something that is very exciting for us to share. Again, these are some of the pieces that we have focused on to improve mathematics instruction in our district. But we are seeing evidence that our district is recovering at a faster rate than the state in grades 3-8 in all student groups. Here you can see the shorter line is actually better than the longer line because the goal is to get to 0. And we are beginning to see a faster rate of proficiency and improvement on learning recovery since the 18-19 pre-pandemic results. In addition to that, we are very excited that now it's past September 6th, so we're able to share information on our results. Our grades 3-8 math proficiency increased for each student group at each grade level. 63 of our schools increased EOG math proficiency, 46 elementary and 17 middle schools, and 20 of our middle schools increased on the grade 8 math results. So we are seeing that really the efforts that we're ensuring that we're accelerating learning, that we're providing supports through core curriculum, through supporting our teachers and our administrator in understanding the learning that is happening in the implementation and the tutoring, it's really showing positive results for our district and for our students.
Well, thank you very much to both of you. Thank you for the incredible presentation and also the incredible work that both you and Dallas ISD are doing in the improvement of mathematics outcomes for your students. And at this time, we'd like to turn things over to Denver Public Schools to share what they have done to increase unfinished learning and address the challenges that their students have had. And we'd like to ask Dallas if they can briefly share information about their plans around making a difference in their mathematics program. And I'd like to turn things over to Dr. Simone Wright and Jessica Piwko of the Denver Public School District.
Thank you, Ray. So I will get us started just giving a bit more insight into our context and what kind of was the underlay of some of the shifts and changes that we've made in the last academic school year to drive mathematics improvement. So the charge from our proud superintendent, Dr. Alex Marrero, was pretty clear. From the time I arrived in DPS, he continued to remind the organization, and still does, that educational equity is our collective responsibility. And we would not, or we could not enact this responsibility without increasing student achievement, specifically for our historically underserved students. Next slide. As Dr. Marrero led the work of revising our vision, mission, and core values, he wrote out our district strategic roadmap at the beginning of the 22-23 school year, which included our district theory of action. I want to highlight the first bullet because this was one of the drivers for how we approach unfinished learning. As we further defined acceleration, the goal here was to ensure our Black students, our Latino students, multilingual learners, and students with disabilities outpaced our white, economically advantaged students at a ratio of 3-to-1 when considering growth using proficiency data. As a system, this led us to setting targets for math that were considerably higher than the past, all the way through the 25-26 school year. So before I dive into the slide that's in front of us, it is just important to note, and I heard Guilford County speak to this as well, but before speaking to the difference that our plans are making through the lens of students performing at proficiency or grade level, in Colorado, we also review the amount of growth relative to other schools in the state and or groups of students, otherwise known as median growth percentile. Based on our most recent data, for grades 3-12, our kiddos are actually exceeding average state growth, both across elementary and middle school. I also want to highlight that our Black and Hispanic students specifically demonstrated greater growth than their peers across the state. So when looking at the data that's in front of you, one thing I do want to elevate is, we overemphasize, over-communicated, and build systems around teaching grade level content and ensuring our schools were safe and welcoming. Amongst launching school visits to identify great examples of this and developing responsive professional learning. And we were able, as a result, to increase the percentage of students performing at grade level in math across grades 3 through 12. And what you will notice here is that is approximately 2% looking at each grade band. Next slide. This slide provides insight into the growth we saw as it pertains to the percentage of students meeting grade level performance with high school math. I want to acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do, especially as it pertains to fulfilling our promise to our students and their families, ensuring our kids leave us prepared to thrive. And right now I'm going to invite our phenomenal director of math, K-12 math, to share more specifics as to how the math team was able to catalyze our larger system to focus on acceleration, more targeted professional learning, but more importantly, where we're actually headed in terms of implementation of our newly launched math strategic vision.
Thanks, Dr. Wright. My name is Jessica Piwko, and I'm the Director of Math in Denver Public Schools. Thanks for having us. So in service of our vision that every learner thrives, we had a call to action, and it was accelerating the trajectory of our students, like Dr. Wright said, especially those who have been historically marginalized, while also working to dismantle the systems that hold them back. And so to do this, as you'll see on the next slide, we focused on 2 areas to act as the catalyst for change. And the 2 areas included addressing unfinished learning and emphasizing this through grade level texts and tasks in safe and welcoming environments. We also focused on creating a clear vision for what high quality math instruction should look like in our math classrooms at all levels across our entire district. And so first I'll talk more about the area of focus of accelerating unfinished learning. So to start, we had to define, overemphasize, over-communicate, and train on acceleration versus remediation. That is, we had to respond to identified gaps in student learning in real time through grade level texts and tasks, as opposed to engaging students in instruction standards and tasks that are below grade level. We also codified how to think about, plan for, and execute accelerating learning. This framework of understand, diagnose, and take action was our mechanism that included understanding grade level content and the prerequisite skills and concepts students need to access them, collecting and using student data to determine students' current understanding of those prereq skills and concepts, and then last, as you see, planning for instruction that incorporates whole class and or small group needs based on the data that was collected. We did this all through maintaining instruction and student engagement within the grade level texts and tasks. That framework that you saw in the previous slide was basically the foundation for our teacher and leader professional learning cycles across the district. And in addition, we created resources that were embedded into our scope and sequence curricular documents that would provide school-based educators with really content-specific resources that would support planning and implementation of the framework that I just went through. So happening simultaneous, one back, Dr. Hart. Thanks. So happening simultaneous to this idea of accelerating unfinished learning, we had a collective charge of creating a clear vision for what high quality math instruction should look like across our district. So we invited students, teachers, building leaders, personnel from multiple functions across our central office, and community members involved in this process. Through the collaboration, we built and increased awareness and understanding of what math instruction should look like that serves the needs of each and every learner in our district, especially those that are historically marginalized. This vision that has been codified, it is the foundation of our teacher and leader professional learning cycles, which we've worked to really rebrand. And we've seen a result in increased teacher and leader engagement, as well as the execution of their learning during Tier 1 instruction. So where we're at now, where we're headed is most important, right? So we have our math vision that is clear. We have our understanding of accelerating learning in motion. And our current work now is to really codify our vision as a district as to what high quality instructional materials means for our students and school-based educators, and more importantly, ensuring that each and every student has equitable access to those materials. So like Dr. Wright mentioned, there's still quite a bit of work to do, but I'm excited to lead this work in Denver Public Schools. Thanks for allowing us to share. I'm going to hand it back over to Dr. Hart.
Thank you very much for sharing the Denver Public Schools story. And at this time, we'd like to turn things over to San Diego Unified to round out our presentation of districts and what they're doing in practice. We'd like to hear from San Diego about what they're doing around leadership, and what do we know and where do we go from here. And I'd like to turn this over to, and there are 4 pillars of education. I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Wendy Ranck-Burh and Jessica Walsh.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. I'm Wendy Ranck-Burh. I'm joined with my program manager for math, Jessica Walsh. And to set the context for our district, San Diego Unified is the 2nd largest school district in the state of California. We serve about 100,000 students, and we are a very diverse school district. About 30% of our students are English language learners, and approximately 60% of our students receive free and reduced lunch. So what we're going to be talking about today is what we refer to as our San Diego Enhanced Math Initiative, and it is how we'll be talking about the steps that we're taking to address learning loss and to accelerate our students. So the first slide that you see here, this is our vision for what we want every student in our system to be able to do. We want to eliminate the use of the terms, I'm not good at math, because we believe everyone is good at math. So this is the vision that we are striving to create. In order to do that, next slide, please. Our theory of action is driven by these 4 pillars of education that you can see here on this slide. And we believe that in order to address learning loss and accelerate students in mathematics, we can't just focus on curriculum or just on classroom practices. We also need to include leadership and assessment in that process. And so with that, I am going to turn it to my colleague, Jessica, who is going to talk more about the supports that we're providing and our assessments. Jessica.
Thank you, Wendy. One of our big shifts that we've been thinking about is how we look at and view assessments across our system. Typically, in a traditional assessment, we look at deficits and what students may not do. We have shifted this over the last few years into an asset-based assessment approach. So we really want to think and value each and every student as a unique thinker, as being a mathematician, and how their thinking and knowledge is valued. So one of the things we look at is that mathematics is being multidimensional. We want students to be able to balance out that procedural, conceptual, and problem-solving approach. So we talk about the knowledge, application, and communication, and having that balance. And one of the assessments we do district-wide is called the District Essential Mathematics Indicators Assessment. It is multidimensional, it's asset-based, and we look at the student's agency and student voice and through the types of questions that we ask, as well as the mindset survey. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as we've shifted our thinking around assessment is how does this look like in instruction? Those 4 pillars have to be done simultaneously for everything to start to take place. And so we've shifted the assessment into the strengths-based, so thinking about what students can do when they're in the classroom, and also highlighting their mathematical thinking to leverage growth. And this will help support teachers and guide instructional moves. And as our San Diego Unified team, we have a coaching model that we have been going into. Next slide, please. So as we made these instructional shifts, we partner with many people to make this happen. Our departments across the district, our instructional tech, our special education departments, our math department, multilingual, as well as our external partners have all come together to make this happen in classrooms. We have 3 different ways we support school sites. So listening to site administrators at our middle schools, our elementary, as well as high. So it's a whole district initiative, but particularly when working in middle school math around incorporating the instruction, the curriculum, the assessment as a lab site, developing mentor site, and ramp-up sites. So at our lab sites, we have coaches that work hand in hand with mentor teachers. So they'll do some co-teaching. They'll also dive into lesson study. They'll work with PLCs as well as the instructional leadership teams. Sites who have opted into being a mentor site is that our coaches across the district will go in and help support PLCs, but they may not have as much coaching there. It just depends on what they're asking for. And same thing for our ramp-up sites. So we really try to incorporate what site principals would like to have and what educators would like to have at their school sites. So what does this work look like, or what does the data tell us? And I'm going to hand it over to Wendy to fill that in.
So the slide that you have in front of you, what we did is we were able to look at match data. We looked at we're focusing on our middle school because we have 65% of our middle schools who are what we refer to as our enhanced math sites that have those 4 pillars that I began with present in their school to some degree or another. So what we wanted to know is of our schools that have those 4 pillars in place and are making progress in that direction, how is that impacting students? So this first slide that you see here, you can see we're comparing our enhanced math sites and our non-enhanced math sites. This represents 8,000 students with match data for grades 6 and 7. And you can see that we had more growth for our enhanced math students overall with this match data. The result at our subgroup data, and for our Black students, what we found was that their growth actually was quite accelerated, and they almost caught up to their white peers. So evidence to us that our approach with enhanced math is truly accelerating students and showing great promise in some of our different student groups. Next slide, please. For our English language learners, one of the things that we saw here is we didn't see the growth that we saw with our Black youth. However, we also didn't see as much regression, if you will, with our English language learners. So this is an area of learning for us. We want to learn more about this, and it is a next step for us in our learning. Next slide, please. So we take our data that we have thus far as a great indicator that we're on the right path. Some of our additional next steps is we are in the process of developing an asset-based assessment for our very youngest learners. And so we have provided additional contact information for this slide in the event anyone wants to follow up and engage in further discussion. So thank you for having us today. We really appreciate the collaboration and lots of similarities across the districts that we heard from. So thank you all so much, and I'm turning it back to Dr. Hart.
Thank you very much. So special thank you to all of our districts: Dallas Independent School District, Guilford County Public Schools in Greensboro, North Carolina, Denver Public Schools, and San Diego Unified Public Schools. Thank you all very much for all that you do on behalf of our children.